Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Big West Mafia Show, part of the College Football Mafia family. Thank you for joining myself. I'm Sergeant Pickles. You can find me at Sergeant Pickles and at Big West Mafia on Twitter. And our fabulous founder, Mr. Nathan Bomber Brown. How you doing, Nate?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Pickles? It's good to see you. Have a good weekend?
Good weekend, eventful weekend, but yeah, certainly keeping a side eye on everything college football and the Friday and Sunday shows. If you miss them in our replays, I would highly encourage you to go back. There was, needless to say, much debate about the college football playoff format and disagreement between our hosts. But yeah, shortly,
which I think is okay. I love disagreement. It doesn't bother me in the least.
The best solutions come when you have dissenting opinions, that's for sure. And I'm hoping Becky Go Huskies will join us shortly. She may be having some technical difficulties, but you can normally catch her and I hosting Big West Mafia Mondays, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on the College Football Mafia YouTube channel. Please subscribe and follow all the links you see down at the bottom. These are all of our fantastic contributors, and they're posting stuff every day, keeping you updated with news and notes. And they're hosting shows. We have our normal shows. What is it? Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays, our normal College Football Mafia shows.
Yeah.
And Mowing After Dark on Sundays, which is, if you're a fan of getting into chat and mixing it up with everyone, Mowing After Dark on Sundays is perfect for you. And already getting a message from Becky here. Just 1 second. Apologies. I think she's having some technical difficulties. I'm hoping we'll sort that out on the back end. But for now, Nate, you'll have to be my Becky proxy.
Uh-oh. I'm not as good at it as she is. I'm not sure I can do that.
That's all right. We'll keep it moving here. So the tidbits of West Coast news, there wasn't really a ton. We've had some assistant coaches hires from USC, UCLA, etc., but kind of a dead period. I think the biggest thing for me was we were very eager as Washington fans having the NFL combines. I'm not sure how much of that you caught, but Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and even JJ McCarthy showed out extremely well. I'm just wondering what your thoughts were, how much of that you saw kind of coming over your news feed.
This year, I haven't been able to watch as much. I've been doing other things, primarily working on my shows. But the one thing that stood out to me is Keaton Slovis ran a 4.59.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? We didn't see him once do that at BYU.
Right.
If he was really that fast and we weren't exploiting that, that's a coaching issue. It needs to be, believe me, here at BYU land, that really caught everybody's attention. Other than that, boy, Florida State's got some people showing out right now by far. Maybe they're the most prepared because, honestly, they took the holidays off. They were doing draft prep for the last 3 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you imagine, with 13 Huskies invited to the Combine, I was keeping a close eye on it. Both Roger Rosengarten was the fastest of all tackles. He ran, as you were saying with Slovis, Roger ran a 4.92 at over 300 pounds. He's a big boy, and he was moving. Yep. And, of course, you get the Michigan fans in chat piping up about how he fared in the championship game. But nevertheless, I think there will actually be quite a few Huskies drafted. Troy Franklin from Oregon, excellent player, showed out extremely well. And it's pretty typical. You know, the West Coast skill players show out pretty well, but I think it was encouraging to see some offensive tackles and like Powers Johnson from Oregon as a center. Maybe they can compete in the Big Ten if they keep developing offensive line talent like they have.
Completely agree.
Alrighty, and then the other one, I actually caught this just today. Credit to 365 Sports. I don't have the video link quite available, but he posted an article that you referenced earlier, Nate, for us, the 14-team playoff and why the Big 12 and ACC should jump on it right away. No hesitation for getting 2 AQ spots. So I'm curious what your take was on Wilner saying it's a no-brainer.
I'd have to agree. If you look at just the percentages that we've had access to, I think it's the most fair. Because those other 3, what is it, right? 3 extra, they'll go to the SEC or the Big 12, Big 10. They don't have to worry about having more auto qualifications because they to take their words and use them against them, they already have them. So why make them reserved then? It didn't make any sense. I think there was enough of a pushback on that idea that I'm not 100% sure it's dead, but I think 3-3-2-2-1 is gaining a lot of steam. And in my opinion, right now in 2026, that's the most relevant. But I could be wrong. There's a bunch of good ideas out there.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the mathematical reason to do all of this, it's kind of gone out the window because you have conferences vying for power. The 8-team model, way back in the day when we said we're moving beyond BCS to a playoff, I said, perfect. 8 teams, 5 AQs, get the champions in there, and
Right.
let's get it going. If they put in 3 at-large SEC teams, so be it. But the champions will be in. They skipped right over that. We somehow went from 4 to 12, and we skipped over 8, which I personally have seen as the perfect solution all along. But we now have this strange 14 team where 14 will always result in a problem, because I do think the SEC and Big Ten are leveraging those, give us the buys no matter what. I think they're leveraging that for something else and that they'll back down in the end. But to all the Big 12 fans saying like that 14 works, I think you should hesitate on 14. 12 works better because you can have 4 conference champions, or 16 with no buys. But
Yeah.
14, even if it's not automatically given to the SEC and Big 10, that's still how they're going to divvy them out in the end. It does put the ACC and Big 12 at a disadvantage, even if it's not, codified into the statute of how they're going to set it up. I think that two AQs is a good thing, but really ACC and Big 12 need to be pushing for 16 or staying at 12. I think 14 is kind of a no man's land for them.
Absolutely right. I think and the smaller, if you want to call them, smaller leagues need to do everything they can to stay up in the relevancy piece. And I wouldn't be screaming so much about the money. Because at this point, there's such a disparity just in the media contracts. We know the Big Ten and the SEC are always going to make more money. Let's not even argue about that anymore. It shouldn't be about money. It should be about access, just like it should have been for the Pac-12 people. If they would have been going for access instead of the rich money that they thought they deserved, the Pac-12 still be around.
Right. No, absolutely. It's kind of fighting the battle you think you have versus the battle that you actually have.
Exactly.
And that led the Pac-12 to death because they were fighting a different battle than the one that was actually facing them. And I see my good friend Tony Leshin in chat. He earmarked. He said he's making a plea to you, Bomber,
what did he say?
Get me a media pass for Big Ten Media Days coming up. I'm wondering how official we need to be before we start seeing big time invites like that.
Can I just tell you, I'm already working on trying to get access for the Big 12 and BYU. I've got an insider that's working on that. If I get my Big 12 one, I'm going to take that one and leverage it, and I'm going to try to go to as many as possible. I'm going to try to go to the Big 10. I'm going to try to go to the Big 12. I'm not sure I'll make the SEC or the ACC or ACC or SEC though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moen, what's going on?
Howdy.
Maybe he didn't want to be in. He's muted. I'll put him back.
Alrighty.
Back in. Sorry about that. That was my fault.
We have a drive-by by our good friend Moen there.
That was my fault.
Some back-end troubleshooting for us. But yeah, Big Ten Media Days, there have been others. It's kind of been a nothing to me. I don't really care about media days other than maybe you see the coaches, but these carry a lot of weight now. These coaches are going to be peppered with questions left, right, and center. And Bomber, just in our hypothetical plan, if you had to send yourself or me as your representative to one of these 3 media days, which one would you send me to and why?
Me? I would.
Yeah, you got to pick.
I would send you. I would send you
to.
Yeah, I would send you to. Which is the? Let's see. Wisconsin, Miami. Well, you have to go to the one with Michigan and Washington. You have to cover Washington.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to lean away. I know I got some more of my purple in the background than usual, but I'm trying to stay neutral.
Well, if you want to do that. Yeah, you could go to. I really don't care which one you go to as long as you're going, I guess is what I'd say.
Yeah. A thing to aspire for in the future. Absolutely. But
we'll get there. Everybody be patient. We're not in a get rich quick thing here. We're being slow and deliberate, and we're going to grow this thing big. It'll happen.
Yeah, we're just, from my perspective, I'm enjoying being here and getting a new show and contributing to the team. And it's been an absolutely wild ride, and it's exciting to see where we're going from here. But part of those people help us make that journey forward are our fantastic members. We have Timothy Green here. Hello, said hello, Becky Go Huskies, Sergeant Pickles. And the aforementioned Becky Go Huskies has joined us. Good evening, Becky.
Hey, Becky.
Good evening. Hi.
That's a nice house you're sitting in there. Where is that at? Are you on Montlake? Is that where you're at?
I wish. I can't afford a house out there.
Well, you're sitting in it. You must be visiting over with Bill Gates or something.
Nah, he lives in Medina. His house is huge.
Yep.
Yeah, I've actually driven by his house on the water.
We were just saying hello to some of our fantastic members and subscribers to the show, like Timothy Green here. Sounds like a good show. I hope we can definitely give you some thought-provoking ideas going forward. Hello to Mooncat. Good evening. Buckshot Kid, another early one into the show. Hello. Jan Hulk, all the way from Slovenia. Is that correct, Bomber? Do I have my countries right?
Yes, Slovenia's right. Yep.
Jan Hulk, my goodness, consistent as they ever come from halfway around the world. It's absolutely incredible. I can barely get out of bed in the morning, but Jan Hulk is making it happen, many, many time zones ahead. So thank you, Jan. I have Jamie Thornton. Where's Becky at? Boom. Becky Go Huskies appears right there. Like a magic trick. Fantastic. Nathan Campbell. Hello again. Edward Wayner. Howdy from San Marcos, Texas. I can't say I know where San Marcos is. It sounds toasty. That's all I can say. Go Houston Cougars.
San Marcos is on the Gulf, isn't it?
That's a new one for me. I've only been to Texas
I think it's
once, and it was terrible.
Yeah, no, it's on the Gulf, so they're on the ocean. Very pretty, but hurricanes come through there. I hope you stay safe, Wayner, during hurricane season.
Yeah, if anyone's having inclement weather, I know that's been going around. Please stay safe out there. But thank you for joining us while you still have power. I really appreciate that. To Mazda, Super League not imminent. It depends. I guess it all depends on what your definition of a Super League is. That really goes a long way to saying whether it's imminent or not. Terry Kane also 4-12, so Notre Dame could get in. Notre Dame's been having a lot of coddling, but I think that ship is slowly setting off for them. They're not going to get the special treatment they once did. And leading out from that, oh shoot, now I've really done it. I've boogered something on the back end here. But Becky, we kind of touched in on our tidbits going forward. NFL Combine. Did you have anything else you wanted to add from that? I know you keep a very close eye on prospects going forward.
Yeah. I think the big thing was the wide receivers are crazy good, which we all knew. Nobody actually separated themselves.
Yeah, let's talk quarterback really quick, Becky.
Talk quarterback? All right.
Yeah, give me your top three quarterback.
The top three quarterbacks are, for me, it's number one is Williams. Again, I think he's just legit. I don't get the hate. I know he didn't do anything this weekend, but I mean, name a great quarterback that goes to the combine and does anything there. May is number two, obviously. I think he's just your prototypical NFL quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he's just your prototypical quarterback. Like,
okay.
Drake May walks in the room, you're like, okay, 6 foot, whatever, 200 and whatever, big arm. I mean, he's like Josh Allen, but went to a better school.
Gotcha.
And then Odunze, or not Odunze, but Penix really wowed people. So
he did, yeah, I did see that.
There's video of him throwing in like the back area. I don't even like across. I don't even know what it was. Like he's in the stadium, but not on the field. He's like where the fans congregate and stuff like that. And he's just like throwing darts.
Yeah,
like
he's going to be this year's Zach Wilson. I could see him going too because of his combine and his singular workouts. Once people see him in person,
it's his injury history that's gonna kind of scare people. So
right.
and rightfully so. 2 ACLs and a bad shoulder. Rightfully so. It would scare me. He has to wear a brace when he plays. So.
Yeah, I understand that. Gotcha.
But the biggest thing that stood out, not only did the University of Washington have the fastest lineman, they had the fastest tight end.
Yeah, it's very strange to see a guy like Cope. We always knew he was a freak athlete, but watching him speed past receivers when he's got 20, 30 pounds on him was quite something.
The other thing was Ulafaccio, linebacker from Washington. He's not the fastest dude. He's like 6'4", 236, but he has like a 39-inch vertical. It's just ridiculous. He is insane. And the other thing was, if nobody's ever seen Michael Penix's hands, Google it.
I'm not sure I want to.
They are huge.
It's like telling me to look at his feet.
This finger, his middle finger and ring finger are huge. They're super long. Like his hands are mad. Like his hand can almost wrap around a football. It's huge.
Wow. Awesome.
And yeah, and then of course he had like a 6'9" wingspan. He's only 6'2".
The measurables were definitely off the chart with Penix, and as we've known for a long time, it's all been about the injury history. Rock and Rant, real quick, a super chat from him. Thank you, or her. I actually don't know, him or her.
It's a guy. I've spoken to him. Rock and Rant's a stud.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Been supporting the show basically from our very first episode just a few weeks ago. Only too many CFP teams if your team is in. Not enough if your team isn't. Have a good show. Ain't that the truth? You know, yes. People only really throw a fuss about it if it affects them directly. But, you know, there's definitely been an era of the fairness in the game is leaving quickly. But I'm going to throw an idea out there, my own personal take on what I wish they would do. And hopefully it appeases many, but you can't please everyone, which is exactly why they're talking about a 96 team March Madness, because you got to please everyone these days. But thank you again, Rock and Rant. Absolutely awesome contributing to the show. And oh goodness, sorry, I got a little sidetracked there for just a hot second. Other than the aforementioned Huskies, is there anyone else that caught your eye coming from the draft? I'm not here to rag on JJ McCarthy, but
no.
I don't understand the love for him, and my opinion on that continued.
He stood out a little bit. You know, he showed he has the arm and everything. He has a little bit of talent. His measurables were pretty good, but no, it's Xavier Worthy stood out. Like, not many people. I don't think many people thought he would be like a first or second round guy at wide receiver, especially how deep the draft is. But when he ran that 40. Like 4.21.
That's ridiculous speed.
It's ridiculous. Like,
broke John Ross's all-time combine record.
And John Ross was like, okay, that John Ross, I just outran everybody. He just ran one route at Washington. But we've seen Xavier Worthy run multiple routes. So
the interesting thing I saw is that someone posted a list of the top 10 all-time combine times. And I think that there was something like 1 or 2 Pro Bowls total between all of those guys. Yeah. It is not a good list. It is full of guys. How do we say that Al Davis and the Raiders would have drafted a long time ago? As long as they look good on paper, they'll take you at the high pick.
Well, I mean, if you want to know, I mean, unofficially, a Seminole has the fastest time, and Deion Sanders supposedly ran a 4.19 or something like.
Hand timed, right?
Yeah. So the other thing that stood out was Jim Harbaugh out there timing the guys himself, his own Michigan guys.
Really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, there's like they have footage of him. I was like, is he really like timing guy? He's got a stopwatch and he's like clicking it on his own.
Interesting.
He's a quirky guy. Yeah, he's a quirky guy. It wouldn't shock me in the slightest to see him out there doing something like that. Another one of our fantastic members, Joaquin Morales, says, "Don't forget to smash that like button." Thank you so much for reminding everyone to do that. And while we're at it, we're gonna show you here how you can become a member of the College Football Mafia channel. We have subscriber exclusive videos. The series we're doing right now is an excellent analytical breakdown by our good friend Wild Ute on members joining the Big Ten. I believe, is the North Carolina one live to the public, Bomber? Or
Let
is
me
it
check.
upcoming?
Let me check. Right now, I need to refresh because one of them just went live. So right now, the only one that's locked up is the University of Miami. So North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, and then there's also the private equity breakdown that's on there as well.
Yeah, so our members get exclusive access to the videos beforehand. They are released to the public later, but if you want to keep up to date with his breakdowns, because they're coming out at a pretty rapid pace. I know he is committed to doing, I want to say Kansas and Texas A&M as some of the a teaser alternate for you out there.
Yep.
He is doing some very interesting candidates that you wouldn't think of. And I believe he plans on continuing that series for SEC candidates and also Big 12 member candidates such as Pitt, Louisville, etc. All the names we've been talking about. But he takes a hard analytic approach to them and puts those excellent videos out for our members. And here is how you can become a member and help contribute to the show and get early access to those videos.
Want to become a member of the College Football Mafia family? Simply select the Join button from our homepage. There are several options with their own unique benefits to choose from. You can also set yourself to auto-accept gifted membership by selecting the gift settings options as shown.
All right, outstanding. Thank you so much for all the support, especially to our members. Wisconsin's Bortoli can run for an O-line guy.
That guy was crazy fast. Sorry, I had to mute myself. I apologize.
I didn't see the split times, but yeah, I'd be curious if he broke 5 seconds. That's fast. When you're 300 pounds and sub 5, you're moving, and that's why Roger Rosengarten, tackle for the Huskies, set it at 4.92. That doesn't mean anything. You can be fast and not have skills, but he was part of that Joe Moore award-winning line, and needless to say, I was quite surprised at the time he was able to put up.
Yeah, he was faster than Fatanu, which is like,
yeah.
I got to jet, guys. I hate to get in the middle. I'm sorry, but
no worries.
I need to run and do something really quick. So have a great night. It's great to see everybody here. Just so you know, you guys have gone over 50 3 times already. That's amazing. Can
awesome.
I say that for your third show? I was doing 4 people. So just keep it up. And everybody, thanks for contributing.
I was one of those 4.
Okay, I appreciate that, Pickles, very much. Hey, everybody else, have a great night and peace out. And we will see you tomorrow night.
All right. Thank you, Bomber. We will see you tomorrow on College Football Mafia Show.
See ya.
Alrighty. Yeah, it's definitely it's been a slow week Big Ten news wise, but I was able to touch on it with Bomber also. We hit a little bit of combine, but the one I wanted to pose to you, I put this question out to Bomber, was Big Ten Media Days has come up. Oh shoot, I've lost the graphic, darn it. But which day, if I can find it here, which of the days were you most interested in going to?
Oh, it's that last day, because both Michigan and Washington are there.
Right.
That's the one. I mean, like, first day is but that last day, you got the 2 national champion runner-ups, brand new head coaches. You have national champs, the runner-ups. You have brand new coaches. It's gonna be something. I think Ohio State's day will be really, really good too. And then obviously the second day is interesting because you have USC, Iowa, and I think there was like one of the other bigger programs was there too. So it's like every day has something, but that last day you got, the 2 teams that people want to see. Yeah, there it is.
There we are.
Yeah, Penn State, USC, Michigan State's interesting, only, with new coaching staff coming over from Oregon State.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty good. I'm also very interested in the first day for the reasons of Ohio State, but also Greg Schiano's kind of fun. He always gives like a nice little soundbite. And Northwestern as well. That again, first their head coach is in his second year. He earned that job. Like, let's see where that goes. And then of course, Wisconsin's under they're under some pressure to succeed. But that last day, Oregon, Washington, Michigan,
Yeah,
come on.
easy call for the Husky fans to say that that's the day. But I genuinely think that there's, even if you think a team doesn't have a lot going on, every single day has coaches that either have turnover or even the coaches that have been traditionally in teams with difficult positions, like Northwestern's coming off a fantastic year and they have all these new challengers coming in. How do they respond to that? Are they able to build off it? The Oregons, the Ohio States, the Michigan, especially without Harbaugh, they're going to get all the pub and the attention. But honestly, as a writer covering this or just a fan, if I was able to attend, I would be absolutely excited to go to any of these 3 days and really, really see how this thing's going to shape up, because that everyone's friends on media day, and then the first kickoff happens and it all goes out the window.
So I said that second day is going to be a little bit of a fun one, because the Iowa head coach taking some shots at USC in the offseason, and Penn State's having to answer questions about their offense, and then obviously rule at Nebraska is just going to be fun. So I think that would overall is the better day. But I think that third day with even Minnesota, because Fleck almost left for UCLA. So
yeah. All righty. And that kind of covers our basic tidbits for the day. And this one, Becky, this has been my pet project for quite a while that I've been working on. Everyone is talking about 12 team, 14 team, 16 team. Where does it go? Are the Big Ten and the SEC the evil empire? I'm not exactly going to call it a hot take, but every single proposal I've seen has a fatal flaw of some kind. 12 to me is fine, but you're getting to a point where how sustainable is that? In the long term, we know that they're going to push for more and more and more games. 12 to me is the stopgap, right? At least I don't know if your opinion. 14 is the most broken of all, because although in theory, and in the SEC, whether they automatically get the buys or not, even if you don't put it in writing that they get the buys, we know that they're probably going to be assigned those buys most years. And it's broken. It puts teams on a pedestal. To me, it's the bargaining chip of all bargaining chips. I think they skipped over the perfect number to me, which is 8, but the inevitable destination, if you want some kind of peace, harmony, and solidarity of whatever is left of college football, you go to 16, you give the conference champions, seeds 1 through 4. And then I'm still a proponent of the G5 AQ spot. I don't know if you are, but to me, 16 is perfect. I don't need all these extra AQs. I want the champions to get, so I would have a 5 plus 11. I want as many at-larges as possible. I'm wondering what your take is on that.
Well, I mean, I'm a psychologist at heart here, so I do research during my day. So for me, I'm like, can we just let the 12, let's see what the 12 does, right? So if we could just see the 12 first. If we could see the 12 teams go at it first for the 2 years and then make an educated decision after that, I would be okay with. But personally, I'm on board with just do the FCS playoff. Let's go. I want to see Georgia travel to like Kent State. I want to see the little teams have a shot at home against the big boys. Like, come on.
Yeah. To me, the FCS works because you don't really see those leagues trying to get one over on the other. Mm-hmm. You don't really see a lot of inter-league movement or inter-conference movement in FCS. They don't poach members off each other. It doesn't really work that way. And Jamie Thornton brings up an excellent point here. 14 is what the Big Ten, the SEC want. Obviously, it separates them. It gives them the golden carrot, right? Those games make money, and they don't want to lose their conference championship game. I agree that has been one of the biggest reasons why it seems like they're hesitant on 16, because as our good friend Immaculate has explained, once you go to 16, any form of conference championship game kind of goes out the window because it just becomes a CFP game. Not to backtrack, but that's why I liked 8 so much. You could still have your conference championships and do an 18 playoff, no buys, and just keep it rolling. But we breezed right past what seemed like the optimal solution. And the second half of my my version of the college football playoff solution is kind of the wild part, because I think the bowl system is absolutely broken. I kind of want it to go away, but I have found what I believe to be a slightly better solution. So you have your 16-team college football playoff. And to use this, I just use what's called the Massey ratings. It's one of those number crunching ratings that puts them in some kind of order. And a couple things you'll notice about it. This is just a hypothetical based on this past year. So you have Michigan. It actually put Alabama over Washington in their ratings. It's not me arguing it. That's just what the numbers spat out. And then Texas, FSU. The curious one you're going to see is number 8 seeded SMU. I believe if you have 16, and I call this the Wild Ute rule because he despises this with a passion. He wants the G5 to go away. I think they should earn at minimum the 8 seed in order to have one home game. And they're getting the biggest road opponent. And everyone says, oh, that's unfair to Oregon because if they'd be hosting a game if they were the 7. If you're Oregon, who would you rather, would you rather face Mississippi at home or SMU on the road? Tough call.
Judging by who the 8-9 would have to play next.
Yep.
I mean, do you want to be the 8-9 anyway? Because you'll end up playing Michigan in this scenario, most likely.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But even with these Massey ratings, you see teams from multiple conferences. Obviously, it's a lot of future Big Ten. It's a lot of future SEC. But even like a Kansas State, I don't think this takes any opportunity off the table. And it's why I'm a fan of kind of numbers based. We hated the old BCS until we got rid of it and said, oh, maybe the BCS really wasn't so bad, because this whole, I forget the guy's name, Boo Corrigan and the CFP committee. I'd rather have a computer spit something out than listen to those dudes pontificate about who deserves to be in or not.
As somebody who hated the BCS, I can't do the BCS.
Right.
The BCS had its flaws. We can go down the list.
Lesser of two evils, in my opinion.
Florida State, Oklahoma in 2000 probably shouldn't have been the game. It should have probably been like Washington should have been in there.
Yeah.
The big thing was, well, Miami's like, we deserve to be in there. And it's like, well, you lost to the number 3 team.
Yeah.
And then, after that, it's like, okay, we go to, Nebraska magically somehow playing Miami the next year after getting just absolutely demolished by Colorado in the Big 12 title game. Like, it's had its moments. There was the year that 3 teams were undefeated.
Yeah. And you'll see, so the second half of my bowl fix, you get the 16-team CFP, you'll see this invited column. And the common denominator between them is every single G5 or Power 5 team that participated or won their conference championship. Why they're in the invited column is I would take the 4 non-CFP traditional New Year's 6 games, and they would become their own 8-team mini tournaments. So you would have a Orange Bowl 8-team playoff, mini playoff, a Peach Bowl 8-team mini playoff, a Cotton Bowl 8-team mini playoff, and it's not the Sugar Bowl, Fiesta Bowl 8-team mini playoff. You would still rotate 2 of them into your semifinals for the CFP. By the way, that means home site round 1 and 2 for the CFP, because 3 road games back to back, you're going to have no fans. I want those non-college football traditional New Year's 6 games to mean something. And I think turning them into little mini tournaments actually gives them some weight. A caveat to that is all these teams that are invited to those 18 tournaments, you can opt out without no penalty. If you're a big name team and you miss the CFP and you're Florida State and all your dudes are going to opt out, you can just not participate. You can opt out of your bowl season. You're not getting a paycheck, but I don't want teams there that don't want to be there. And I did the math on this. So you have 4 8-team playoffs and 1 16-team playoff. That math adds up to 43 games. And that just happens to be the exact number of games that were played during bowl season last year. You have not lost a single game. Now, you have gone from somewhere in the realm of Here, let me pull up the math real quick. I had it written down. The difference is you've got 43 games, but you're going from 84 to 48 teams, which is roughly the same number of teams as the early 2000s. To me, you're getting a higher quality of team. You're getting teams that want to be there, and you're actually giving them a carrot that's worth something at the end. A lot to take in, but what are your initial thoughts?
It does not fix the opt-out problem. There's no point. I'll be honest with you. I would not want to play that. Like it would be awesome for us as fans.
Yeah.
But put yourself in the shoes of guys who are potentially looking at going to the NFL that are on those teams. They're just gonna opt out.
Yeah.
I have said though.
I don't think there's any way around that though.
No. I have since though, like I've been saying this to people for a minute now, privately, and not like on Twitter or anything, but I told them, I was like, well, since they can pay the players now, you want to end opt-outs? Pay them to win the bowl games. Winners get like 100 grand.
I'd be
get 50. Like that would be.
I'd be fine putting a financial incentive of part of this in. Preseason champs, OHIO, not a bad idea, but I get it. This is not what I think is going to happen. Okay, this is I am King Sergeant Pickles for a day. I can snap my fingers and fix it. To me, there's no perfect solution, but this is a hell of a lot better than what we got now. Right. That's all I'm saying about it.
Yeah, and thank you for the super chat, Ryan Willie.
Yep, Ryan. While you'd only judges things based on money, not matchups. I agree, but matchups are designed to generate money.
Yeah.
You know, the almighty dollar rules all, and you want better total quality matchups to generate more money. As fans, we want hatred, even if it's two teams that aren't very good. If they hate each other, that'll probably give you a good game.
I think we've heard this from the media too, because they've even said, like, does the G5 deserve a spot, like an automatic qualifier? And it's like you have to give it to them because you don't want to get sued.
Yeah, definitely.
But you also are like, they're just kind of like taking a slot away from a more deserving team. But it's like, I think if you're a conference champ, I think they all deserve to be in. Every conference champ deserves a spot.
Much along the lines of Tony, I believe it was Tony Lashin earlier. Our last super chat said, you know, whatever number of teams gets yours into the CFP is just perfect, and whatever number leaves them just out is not enough. You know.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of the same logic there.
I mean, it would be all great if everybody could get in, but, you know, like, as they say, in this case, team number 17 would be mad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in reality, team number there's 134 teams now. Team 134 is going to be mad no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You could do, we're going to do a 133 team playoff field, leaving out one.
It's just to the point where, you know, I look at that set of 16, and like I said, I didn't choose these matchups. These are just off of a rating system. I don't see a bad game on there outside of SMU Oregon, and that one has an appeal of its own.
I would say this, though. I would say this, because they have this rule in the NCAA tournament. You cannot play a conference opponent in the first round. I think the CFP needs to try to adopt that rule, so you can't play in that first round, like, at all. So try to avoid. So then we don't have, 2-15, 6-11 are both SEC teams. We and we would just remove that. The 4-13 all SEC. It's like we just
this is based on last year. So the only true, you wouldn't have the same standings and when they're all in the same conference.
Yeah.
But obviously the only one is Georgia. I think you get to a point, though, where the only way to bend it so that you're not having first-round rematches, you would have such wonky seedings, and there would probably be teams that deserve a home game that would be kicked out of one because you've had to move them. That's my only issue with trying to reseed them like that.
No, I understand. No, I'm just saying, like, that's why I think, like, the committee is at its best, because they can manipulate it to make it work like that rather than what polls do and what the computers do. But I just don't think everybody wants to see multiple, like, SEC games all at once. And let's just say this is now the super conference. We would have SMU the only team from outside the Big Ten and the SEC in it? I'm just saying that throwing Kansas State into the Super Conference based on Andy Staples today. So,
yeah, I didn't even attempt to project this forward into where I thought the 2024 teams would finish.
That's the crazy thing. Like when we think about it, that's the crazy thing is like this is where we're heading anyway.
Yeah.
Like we're heading to a super like it may end up being like that. So conundrum, yes, somebody did say super conference.
Yeah, Steve-O says here in chat, if those teams play on January 1st, the whole tournament won't be over till February. I have been this is all kind of in conjunction with the calendar's got to be pushed back even with the 12-team playoff we're about to have, because I think they should find a way to get the national championship game on New Year's. That's, I'm old enough to remember when the New Year's 6 games, you'd have all these huge games. And yeah, we didn't necessarily know who won the championship, but that was the day to watch college football. Yeah. You were watching it for the big one. You weren't playing them into mid-January. And I would love to return to where this tournament takes place over December and you finalize it on that. You own the month of December. You take that away from the NFL. Becky, do you think that's possible at all?
No, because they have unlike the NFL and that they have finals and stuff like that the schools have. Players have to
True.
If they're no longer students and that doesn't matter, then they could probably do it in the 4 weeks. But I like the idea of giving everybody like a break to kind of like, let's give them a week off. Let's give everybody a week off. Take a break. The NFL's starting to work. It's December.
Yeah.
You cannot compete with that juggernaut on a Saturday. When the NFL decides in December they're going to put a game on Saturday, like you have to work around it. Every single sport, everybody has to work around it. Like, so no, I'm okay with how it is. I say get rid of the Pro Bowl. It's the week before the Super Bowl. Get rid of the Pro Bowl. Put the national title game on that day. Let's just expand the tournament to 24.
Coordination. That would require coordination with the NFL, which I think will never happen. No. As Conundrum rightly points out here, Pickles knows hatred is good. Yes, I'm 100% a fan of. We're way past that as far as realignment because we're just kicking rivals out to the curb left and right. Go see our Washington State Cougar friends. But if you can get rivalry and hatred,
the Ducks out too. But
well, you got to care about someone to hate them. I'll freely admit that.
That is true. You have to love them a little bit.
Yeah, preseason champs, OHIO. My dream in the past was that 10 conference champs had a seat, just not realistic. No, I mean, that gives so much leverage to the G5. I mean, it's almost like we kind of are in this mode of, we'll throw the G5 a carrot and give them, their extra invite. But, knowing people who are legitimate fans of G5 teams, having at least that perception that if they play hard, if they have a great season, they can get into the dance and, at least have a seat. That means a lot to them. It's you just slam the door in their faces. They're going to be pretty disinterested in your product. Even if you say, they'll never win it. They'll never win it. Well, we don't know. Nobody said App State would have beat Michigan. Nobody said Boise was going to beat Oklahoma. And yes, they're 1 in a million games, but those become legendary. And if that were to happen in a CFP, if SMU beat Oregon, you think Becky or I would ever let them live it down? No. Never, ever, never. It would be a legendary game for that exact reason.
I mean, and the word, like, we keep forgetting, there's essentially going to be another conference that's forming that's coming in a few years anyway. So it'll be like the G6 without not including the Pac-12 because they're still technically an AQ conference. Like,
I mean, de facto, they're a G conference, and it's fine. It's not shade thrown at them. It's just reality.
No, it is what it is right now. But I mean, they're looked at as independents in all of this anyway. So they're basically they're going to take Notre Dame's seat if they can be higher ranked than Notre Dame, which is really funny. So, but no, I mean, I just think if you do a 2014 playoff, you can get every single conference champ in And then at that point, you can squabble over who gets the who gets the rest of the bids, whether they're auto bids or, invited invitations, essentially. Like, you get the 24 teams. I think the FCS has it right. And the FCS does basically just gives the top 8 ranked teams a bye. And just go with that. Like, it works. It works at the FCS level. I don't know how it won't work at this level.
Yeah. Like I said before, it only works because they see each other as peers, not trying to screw each other over or screw over one another.
Which is the saddest part. The saddest part.
Our friend Tony points out that in NCAA college hockey, they don't let conference mates play each other in the first round. So that's a point in your corner. It can be done. They can't, it's the logical solution, to not have rematches. Later on, rematches, they're inevitable. I mean, you get them in NFL playoffs, you get rematches. Yeah. It's not a big deal.
The NCAA tournament, like, if you let 9 teams in from the Big East, I think they have the record at like 10 or 11. The second round is just, you have no choice.
Yeah.
They're going to have to play each other. So
yeah, our friend Conundrum is also in your corner. I feel like I've stepped on a landmine and people are rapidly swaying against me in my hot takes. But
no,
you got it right.
Your hot take was great, though. Like, I mean, if they just did 1 through 16, it would be
It's
perfect.
An idea.
It's 1 through 16. You're just and you just go, okay, you rank them 1 through 16, call it a game. You let one random G5 school in just because you don't want to get sued. And, but you can't make them the 16 seed, which I hate this in the NCAA basketball tournament. I got to go on a quick rant. I hate the NCAA basketball tournament that makes conference champions 16 seeds. No, give me an at-large Kentucky against number 1 Purdue. I want to see that. Like, you give me that, and then I'm good to go.
If we want to fight over specifics and everything, but to me, arguing over how many AQs and this and that in a 16 team, taking out the element of buys does so much for alleviating some of the tension. If you tell in a 16 team, if you said, okay, Big 10 and SEC are going to get 4 apiece, ACC, Big 12 are going to get 2, and then you have 1 G5. Is that fair? No. Is it a lot more palatable because there's not the added thing with the buys? Maybe. We can at least have that discussion. And I'm not a fan of the 14 team, if you can tell. The 12 team is fine because there's 4 conference champions, but you're going to have Georgia lost this year in the SEC championship and they're better than this crap champion. It'll never end. I'm kind of sick of the arguing about it.
The only thing that I'm upset about, let's say that the conference champ for like either the SEC or the Big 10 get the automatic bye, and they end up being like 9-3 because it's like a weird year. And I get their 9-3 might be better than some conferences 11-1, but like, that's not, it would just suck. Like, that would be the worst thing. And that's the only time where I'm like, but as a fan of a school going into the Big 10, I'm like, I'm totally okay with taking the bye for free. Like, it makes it a little bit easier. And
it's really hard to be kind of fair across the board and try and separate yourself from how it affects your team. And like Big 12 fans and ACC fans, I totally get it. I see, like, we are Big 10 people now. We know that they are trying to screw you over. We know, we understand, we're sorry. It's not our choice.
Yeah.
Like I said, my proposal is literally line up 16 and let it rip. But
I'm with Tony. I'm just ready to hear the arguments over 16 over 17. Why?
Yeah.
Because, in this scenario, I look on there and I'm like, whatever you use didn't include Arizona. And I'm like, Where's Arizona? They were really good last year.
Yeah, to me, 16, the only argument I could even stomach with the 16 is, again, the G5 aspect of it. But it's a clean number. Everyone plays. Like, you're not fighting over buys. You got to separate this. 24 works, but then you're still having the debate over who gets the buys, who doesn't get the buys, how many games. I think once we finally break through that ceiling of these are semi-professionals that get paid and have salaries, a lot of these arguments kind of goes out the window and they can restructure it a lot more smoothly.
I just think it'll take like what the NFL has to have, which is some player input. That's what it's going to eventually take. Like,
as Moen rightly points
Moen.
out, undefeated FSU will be left out at number 17.
That's,
It wouldn't surprise me.
It's probably because ESPN said so. And Kirk
Yep.
Herbstreit didn't want FSU in again. Just kidding. Obviously, they lost their seventh string quarterback in week 2, so that makes them worse.
Yeah, Steve-O points out you're finding more money from ESPN, but where are you finding 8 good TV windows?
Yep.
You got to think of it in the sense of you have to bend the schedule a little. This replaces the bowl season essentially. They play games on Fridays, sometimes on Thursdays, and you could stagger parts of this. FCS, same thing. FCS plays a bunch of midweek games leading up to the final rounds of their playoff. This is replacing the bowl season in essence. And
and truthfully, I'll say it. Truthfully, if you give them buys, Wednesday is on the table.
Yeah.
Like, you're giving them a couple of weeks. If you're starting it in December, you're giving them a couple of weeks. Wednesday becomes an option. So now they have Wednesday. They could play like that 1-16 game on Wednesday night. And, the NFL still has Thursday. And then you turn around and you're playing Friday and Saturday. It works out.
Yeah.
Sorry, my dog just grabbed my phone.
No, it's all good.
So, I mean, like, yeah, it all works out, but everything's on the table. You can find money. And, I mean, the G5 playing a 10-game schedule. The 11th game is conference championships. 2 teams each conference, Thanksgiving.
I've seen some of that before where it's like it's a flex schedule where the end of the season you change around that last game or two to basically become your de facto conference championship. I could see them doing that, but it generates a little bit of interest, but is it worth necessarily the hassle it'll pose? Because those are going to have to be home site games and you're talking about crazy travel. That would be my only caveat against it.
You got travel, you have, because I mean, like, there's only one G5 conference essentially out west until the Pac-12 decides what it's going to do. And that's the Mountain West. Like, outside of Texas, the next game would be like, Hawaii, for instance. Like, what would you do if it was Hawaii?
Yeah. It's not that it couldn't be done, but again, like other people have pointed out, like Ryan Willie, ESPN wouldn't go for it. I agree, because they may offer some amount of money, but you're talking about traveling and rapidly scheduling all these extra games. Bowl season is already like borderline for those first few bowls about whether or not they turn a profit. And now you're kind of amplifying that several times over because it's happening in every single G5. It's a decent idea to like have them fight for that last G5 spot, but I don't know if you could quite execute it to that level.
And I mean, like, if we wanted something like this to work, we would have to catch more of that Tuesday night Maction. Like,
yeah, Pac-12 After Dark and Tuesday night Maction coming to you. Yeah. Tony, SEC needs to go to 9 conference games. Soon as they go, if they go to 20 teams, you can bet on they'll go to 10.
I have this weird feeling, and it's just me thinking this. I have this weird feeling that eventually the Big Ten and the SEC are only going to try and schedule each other. Like, there's going to come a point where they're like, yeah, you know what? We can just schedule each other. We have 20 teams. Our best team from last year against your best team last year, all the way down to the last 2 teams playing each other, like essentially Vanderbilt and.
I think the more AQs
Minnesota.
that you. Yeah, I think the more AQs that you have, if the Big Ten has 3 or 4 of those, they can absorb the loss and still do well in conference. So I think that becomes more likely. And then it's the pros and cons. It's the Alabama-Texas thing from this year. The fact that they scheduled each other, even though Alabama lost, was the sole reason they got they were SEC champion. But the reason they got in over Florida State was because they had a good loss to Texas, right?
Yep.
It's true. And they're Alabama.
And they're Alabama. And the other thing is, like, look at this year coming up. Like, at one point, Ohio State had both Texas and Washington on the schedule. Like, this year coming up, that would have been wild.
It would have been absolutely wild. Edward Wayner, I've seen you throw this proposal out there before. It's a 16-team but not the way that you think it is. It's a 16 team with essentially an extra round where there's multiple rounds of buys. So it staggers those blocks of 4 teams like down to an extra round. So yeah, top 4 conferences get 2 buys seeded 1 through 4, AQs 1, 3, 2, 1, 5. I don't totally understand the AQ system you got there, but that would be a tough ask for the Big 12 and the ACC, how they're going to get the buys. Not that they shouldn't, but I don't see ESPN or anyone agreeing to throw them in buys all the way to the final, because they're going to argue for that second SEC or second Big 10 team that'll generate more money. Yeah. It's just the way it is. And it's not a terrible idea. Like, I don't hate it. Like, again,
I like it.
FCS 24 team, you have that multi-structured buy the same way.
The FCS, you have that already. Like, it's perfect. And
yeah, Mooncat's on board with me
in here.
Yeah, Mooncat's on board with me. Maybe BCS wasn't so bad. You know, you only realize it once it's gone.
Mooncat, you're a West Virginia fan. You can't be happy about that. One great time you had an opportunity to play for it, you lost it.
Yeah.
You probably would have fallen out of it completely.
You know, there's some real nostalgia for BCS when a West Virginia fan of all people is advocating for its return over the crap sandwich college football committee we have today.
Right. And you know what my biggest thing was before all of this? I said they should all try to get to an exact number of teams, and then every conference in the A4 just play. You get your 3 non-conference games by playing the other conference teams. So like you would have Alabama playing the champions of the Big 10, the Pac-12, and the ACC.
Yeah.
It worked. It would have been great. And then the next year you throw, you with the Big 12 would have been perfect. But
yeah, when we were at Pac-12 and a Big 10 with 14 teams, I had the idea years ago for like a Rose Challenge Cup, where it would actually be Big 10 1 hosting Pac number 7. And then Pac-1 hosting Big 7, and so on and so forth. So your top half of your conference gets to host the bottom of the other. But you basically, whoever wins the majority of those games, or, however tiebreakers you have, that conference wins the Rose Challenge Cup for the year.
Yeah.
But it's like all of your teams playing all of your other teams. They'll never be that organized again because the Big 10 decided, we can just take the good parts from that we want and just make them conference games. So,
Yeah. And I mean,
Mooncat. Mooncat, I'm almost at the point where I just not caring anymore, wants the BCS back.
Yeah. I mean,
real quick from Tony here. This is a you question because I don't follow hoops as well. What's going on with Hopkins?
Oh, he'll be fired.
Yeah.
So contract stipulates that they don't have to pay him after a certain date, which was March 1st. It went down. And then after, I believe, the 15th, it goes down again to like 0. So they could fire him on the 16th and not pay him a penny.
Yeah, that's inevitable.
It's an inevitable situation. They were already, apparently, from what I've heard from a few people, they've already contacted some coaches and things like that. So
yeah,
they're already starting.
Now, the curious case of, is Washington and the Big 10 coaching hoops better than the Big 12 coaching hoops? I actually think no, but we'll see that game start to play out as well.
Yeah.
Stevo answering again, with 1 game on Wednesday, you still don't get 7 good windows. More teams you have, multiple games, same time, loses value for ESPN. That's the beauty. I don't think ESPN can host this expanded tournament by themselves.
Nope.
I don't.
No, not at that many games. No, No, and
I think they'd struggle to find appropriate windows for a 12 team and have it still work because you're going to have the NFL going.
Well, I think that's why the deal wasn't announced. Like, everything came out. Nope, there is no deal. Where'd that come from? Like ESPN, everybody's saying there's no deal. It sounds like there's another partner involved now already.
Right. Yeah, we're keeping it in the SEC Big 10 family, keeping all the money, ?
I mean, you give them, you essentially that's what they want to do. It sounds like, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but you can kind of read between the lines. When they said that we're going to get along and we're going to form this committee for ourselves, though, they're totally in
alliance.
The alliance. It's
the alliance.
But they both realize like we could just squash this and just make money.
I don't know what you said, but it upset Tony deeply.
Oh, I think he wants our head coach to remain because, Oregon fans do, UCLA fans do. Everybody wants our head coach to remain for hoops because we're so bad.
Yeah, Tony, let me explain this to you. You probably feel the way about Hopkins how Washington fans feel about Dan Lanning. Just stay there. Just stay right where you are. You're great. Do you get some sense college football is co-opting a lot of the offseason attention from the NFL?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
They just did it with what they're taking their sweet time to do like a week of everything to do, like they go to these meetings, they're like, okay, we're having them on they're on Monday. Nothing comes out on Monday, nothing comes out on Tuesday. Wednesday, they do something and it's very vague, and then we're like, and now look at us now. We have this great show. We're doing these great things. Wild Utes preparing these briefs. Oh yeah, no, college football knows exactly what they're doing, and it's creating all the interest.
Yeah. I mean, it's Monday, March 4th, 2024, and we have no shortage of topics here on a college football show. It's becoming second only to the NFL in terms of
we didn't get to USC poaching an assistant coach from TCU. Yeah. We didn't get to UCLA firing their line coach and hiring a guy who coached in the NFL because Eric Bieniemy likes him.
Yeah, it's becoming a mini NFL for better or worse. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Timothy Green, great show, very informative. Thank you. I attempt to give you informative information, but a lot of times it's just me flapping my yap up here. But I very much appreciate that, my friend.
If you're a Canadian, your whole head would do it, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Hey, buddy, I'm not your buddy guy.
Conundrum, he's bringing up the SEC Big Ten breakaway where they just, we're just going to take our ball and go home. I don't know what you think. I actually think this is it's possible they could do it. They have the ability to. I don't think they want to.
I have been on this boat where I don't think that it'll happen anytime soon, but I am starting to lean that, Big 12 fans made fun of the Pac-12's media issues. I am on the boat as going, the way this is going, I don't know if Fox or ESPN will want to spend money on that. Like, I really think it's coming to that point where this may end up just being it, and it sucks, but this may be what happens. Like, if they go to 48 teams, they each get 24, they'll gut the Big 10 or the Big 12, they'll gut the ACC.
Yeah.
And what's left is probably not what people want to watch. And
I think that's actually probably the bigger story about it is they can expand until their heart desire. They could go, and we even saw Andy Staples put out a 48 team. Yeah. I mean, you pick a number, essentially pick a number. Yeah. They can expand to whatever number they think generates money and make a mini league that's closed off. And I think the bigger question to me isn't really about that. It's what becomes of the rest. Do they become FCS? Do they become something different? Do they become a separate division? Because they all have aspirations of winning a proper national title, national title.
And this isn't the NFL. This isn't the NFL. We're a situation where everybody is equal. Your worst team is not getting first access to all of the 5-star recruits. When a team goes 1-17 in the NFL, or like 1-16 in the NFL, they got that number one pick. They're going to get the best available player coming out of college.
Yeah. It's artificial parity.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, Vanderbilt may be the worst team in the Power 5. They're not getting the first access to the 5-star players.
No, they're good at baseball, though.
They're good at baseball. They're like Oregon State. They're very good at baseball. But
our Mountaineer friends, definitely not for the BCS. There seems to be some. I definitely understand. Yeah, Rich Rod going to Michigan did us in.
Yeah, Rich Rod going to Michigan, like,
man,
crushed all that momentum. They probably would have brought back a really good team.
Rich Rod has been the destroyer of worlds no matter where he goes, it seems.
Oh, yeah, we can go Michigan. We have Arizona, although Jacksonville State was really good this year.
Yeah. No, it's just hard to think of all the knock-on effects, and to me, I try to set my playoff thing, and then chat brings up some excellent points of, oh, well, you didn't consider this, you didn't consider that. And I think that's why we're also invested in it. It's like the infinite outcomes, paradox where, the butterfly effect, you change one thing and it changes a million things. I really hope this settles at 16. That's kind of my final destination of, regardless of what conference is doing what, you can argue about AQs, go to 16, forget this bye nonsense, put in the champions and just let her rip. Everyone plays the same number of teams. That's what I want.
If you did your 16, real quick, break down how you would do your AQs. What would your AQs look like? Real quick, 16.
Because I'm a G5 stan, and Wild Ute hates that, I would go either 5 and 11, or I would go 3, 3, 2, 2, 1. If you want multi AQs, I think you could go 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, and it would balance out fairly well, because that gives you 11 out of the 16. You have 5 at larges. That's a Notre Dame plus 4 others, whether they're Big Ten. I could definitely see a scenario where ACC or Big 12 in their current form get another team as one of those at larges if you have a really close top of the conference.
I personally think no independents get access. That would change the complexion of all of this. Make it 5-0.
Tony, 5-5-0. A 10-team playoff is a bold idea, my friend. I like where your head's at.
I mean, I like where he's at with that, and I mean, that would definitely be all SEC and all Big Ten. I don't think our Big 12 fans would appreciate that, nor the ACC.
No,
but I would love to see the Florida State fans' head spin one more time.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna generate. I'll have to fudge the numbers and mess with the conferences and stuff, but I will generate what my 16 team looks like based on future realignment. And I think it'll be far more compelling to Big 12 fans, because in the example I gave, you had Texas and Oklahoma in representing your conference, and Oklahoma State was left out. In the 16 team world that we are about to live in, Oklahoma State would have been in. So yeah, college football used to be magical. It is not anymore. You know what, Mooncat? I don't disagree, but just stay with me in this magical little moment between kickoff and the full 60 hitting. College football is still special. It's still my favorite.
Could you imagine if it stayed at 4 teams for the playoff? That last spot would have it would have to go to a G5 school.
Yeah. The knock-on effects are pretty insane.
And it's like
Tony,
at that point,
5.56. 5.56 is what Tony wants.
That works. So
My
5
goodness.
Big 10, 5 SEC, 6 everybody else.
Yeah, that's a de facto 8, 8, and 0. What are we doing here, Tony? Come on now.
Yeah.
We're trying to be nice to our friends in here.
Oh, let's see. Edward Wayner wants to know if UW and Oregon will expand their stadiums. I don't know if I know a few Oregon fans have talked about that. Like, should they expand it? Could they get to, say, 100,000?
Yeah.
If you've ever been to Autzen, it's borderline impossible, probably.
Yep.
Really add seats.
Yeah. To my East Coast people, Oregon exists far more outside of the state of Oregon than in it.
Yeah.
And even in the greater Portland area, it's arguable that there's more Oregon State fans than Oregon.
Probably more Washington fans than
Oregon is a national brand as far as there's a ton of Oregon fans everywhere. They have incredible branding. They've appealed to everyone across the country. Eugene is not a big place. It is very small. There are not a lot of people. And like I said, the number of people willing to drive a couple hours down from Portland is actually kind of limited. They could do an expansion, a renovation and stuff, but if you gave them a 70K stadium, I don't think they'd fill it for every game. The big-time opponents, sure. But you're not going to fill it against Indiana or Rutgers or Purdue.
They weren't filling it against Arizona State or Arizona. They just it's not filling. Even I'll say it, Washington, we don't. If the game's not compelling, in Washington, in our case, you same thing with the LA schools. You have to be a compelling game. If it's not compelling, it's not going to draw. For us, for instance, there was a day this year or last year's spring game. There was a concert, there was a hockey game, there was a soccer game, there was a baseball game, and there was the spring game. And
Yeah.
then there were multiple little things that popped up throughout the city. There was like 3 million people in the city limits itself. Like, you have you have to compete with that.
LA has the same problem. I know UCLA and USC get a lot of flack because their pictures of their stadium half full. There's a downside to being in a really big market. You are competing against other pro teams, and the Huskies, for the kind of market they're in and competing against a baseball team, a soccer team, a football, an NFL team, a hockey team, and probably a basketball team coming up soon, to put in between 60 and 70K a game is pretty good. I don't think they'll ever become the 100,000, because look at the places where they have 100K stadiums. Alabama, Texas is probably the one example, but they're not in Dallas. They're in Austin.
They're in Austin.
Right? Kyle Field, they're not in Dallas. They're not in Houston or Dallas.
A&M's outside Houston. Austin. And then you have
Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. And Penn State's nowhere near Philly or Pittsburgh. It's in the middle of nowhere, as Penn State fans have told me. All of these teams exist in places where their pro team either doesn't exist, is really far away, or has been really, really bad. Like both of the Ohio pro teams, not super great. The Lions, not super great. So their college team is their pro team, and that's awesome. The Huskies will always compete with the Seahawks. There's a lot of love for both, as you can see on my back wall.
Yeah.
And they do well, but
the other thing you have to realize, and I've said this to people, I'm like, so the metropolitan population of Seattle is 4 million people.
Yeah.
How many people are actually born and raised, went to UW, that live in the metropolitan area? Maybe like 200,000 people.
A moment of honesty to our chat. I never went to college. I'm a UW fan. Hello. I am not that smart.
I went to UW. I also went to Old Dominion, North Texas.
Yeah, we at least have an alumnus in our midst, but I did not go to college. But, I grew up in Washington. I've lived here. The Huskies were always the team I cheered for. So I don't pass the purity test of some fans, but the majority of fans at these other schools don't either, especially Oregon.
Yeah, especially Oregon. And Phil Knight can ask for a bigger stadium, but Phil Knight will have to pay for that stadium. And
Conundrum makes the reverse point that Nebraska Stadium, always full, is the third largest city in the state of Nebraska. Absolutely. Their fans are passionate to the rafters. They don't have any competing teams. They have nothing else. And that's great. Nebraska is the only show in town, and they go 100% for it. Same with Iowa, etc. Like you see that at Minnesota. Minnesota has, pretty good, but not super great attendance for a Big Ten team, a passionate Big Ten team, because they have competing markets. They're in the Twin Cities area, and they're competing against their pro team and the hockey team, etc. It's just a factor you have to take in.
Yeah. And I mean, Moen brings up the fact, the Bengals made a Super Bowl recently. Yes, but historically, the Bengals are terrible outside of one run in the 80s, and then now they're just historically bad. But again, Columbus, if you've never been to Columbus, it's a really big city. It's not small by any means, but it's also in the center of the state. It's easy, you can get to Columbus. It's actually not that bad.
Yeah, Bobby Madden, I'd have to really dive into what you're saying here. I'm sort of getting your gist. It's a 14 team, but you have a play-in game, which is kind of some other proposals I've seen for 16. I just think when you get 2 to 3 layers deep in buys, it becomes really complicated. And you're going to have the same argument with Big 12 and ACC fans. Why don't they get buys? Why does the SEC and Big 10 get pushed, to have it to skip these first couple of rounds? Why don't they compete with everyone? It can be done. Absolutely. But you're going to have so much of the infighting when, SEC team number 4 gets a bye over the ACC runner up. It's never going to stop.
It's not gonna end. So,
all righty. Well, we have gone well past an hour. I appreciate everyone being here and listening to us rant and rave, and got to interact with chat a little bit more, which is always fun. Thank you so much for being here and sticking with us. Man, a lot to unpack, despite it being the off season. I don't think we've heard the last of this CFP 14 team, 16 team, 12 team discussion. but we plan to stay on top of it. And thank you so much for stopping by the Big West Mafia Show, part of the College Football Mafia Network. I am Sergeant Pickles with my lovely guest host, Becky Go Huskies.
Woo, woo.
Please join us next week, Mondays, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, and stop by all of our other fantastic shows on the College Football Mafia Network. See you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.